What if a doctor mom and a daughter duo could write a book about mindfulness and get it published? How did they do it? And why did they write it?
Let's find out more about the why behind this new book. A special welcome back to Dr. Holly McKenna, integrative psychiatrist and author, together with her daughter, Maeve Graffanini, who co wrote a children's book on mindfulness called Inhale, Exhale, Shoot.
Thanks for joining us today at the Healing Medicine Podcast. Who are you listening to? I am Dr. Jessie Mahoney, and my co-host is Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang. We are two board-certified physicians who bring decades of experience to the conversation about wellness. If you crave more ease and aspire to rediscover your love for medicine and life, one mindful step at a time, you are in the right place. We hope you'll love today's episode, and if so, please share it. A reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice.
So, to the both of you, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so
What
much.
was the first idea that sparked the idea for this book, and why did this story feel important to tell?
Let me start.
Yeah.
So for us, I think, well, taking a step back, like I'm a mom, obviously, to Maeve and to her brother Jack, who's now 9, and also work in the mental health field, integrative medicine field. And so breath work has always been kind of part of my journey, like even pre-kids, pre-husband, just a way of survival through like various trials and tribulations. And as in my practice, I use a lot of tools with anxious parents that they can use with their kids. So that's one part of it, is that it's really something that I kind of saw as a potential tool to use. And then the other part is much more personal, in that we both had journeys with chronic illness. And Maeve, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about yours.
I'm good, you know. Good.
And because of our interactions with questionable health issues and the anxieties around that, we've both dealt with how to tackle anxiety. And I think this book was really kind of our way of sharing what we've learned with those that, become our readers and they're grown-ups.
So, as a pulmonologist, you know, and this audience knows that I love the breath. That's partly why I'm a pulmonologist. And you describe the breath as a superpower. Can you tell us more about what that means?
Yeah. I mentioned my son, Jack. I have an Irish background. My husband is Sicilian. My kids kind of are, by inheritance, have some explosive potential in their ways of being. And Jack is one that tends to channel that, or has tended to channel that in the past quite easily. And so I think, which is typical for a lot of little boys, like for whatever reason, maybe because of how society has raised them, anxious feelings or fear or uncertainty often channels into maybe more of an explosive reaction or an angry looking reaction. It's not necessarily anger. I've talked to a lot of other moms with kids that are maybe neurospicy or neurodivergent, and their kids are often mislabeled as acting out and angry, because the feelings come out in a way that isn't easy for the grown-ups around them. And so what I saw with Jack and his journey when we started this book, three plus years ago, was that when we got help from places like occupational therapy and regular therapists and just other moms, other people who have dealt with, kids that maybe don't just say, hey, I'm anxious, and instead have, have behaviors that might seem difficult to their grown-ups. We watched him evolve from a kid that would just yell and scream and cause, maybe say things that were difficult for grown-ups to understand, into one that would actually pause and ask for a minute and take a breath. And so that to me is a real superpower, is being able to have whatever come at you in the world. And this is as a child or as a grown up or anywhere in between, and take a moment to breathe it in and really let yourself digest it and then respond, instead of the reactions that we all do. Like, it's so easy to be like, point our fingers at the kids and say, oh, they're so reactive. But hey, I'm 52 and I react, as she can attest. I have my moments where I'm reactive as well. And Maeve has to remind me to
You need to chill out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Pause and breathe.
All parents need to chill out at some point in time.
One of the things I love about the breath, and I often cue this in yoga, and I know that Holly does yoga with me a lot, this idea that when we actually breathe, we change their physiology. And so it's not just the pause. And that's why I love the kind of inhale, exhale component of it, that I often espouse the pause, but pausing and breathing actually shifts your physiology. So it gives you that capacity, or empowers you with this. It really is a superpower, to help you change how you show up. I'm thinking about my sweet grandson, who's 2.5, and he has a lot of feelings that come out in ways that the grown-ups around him might not appreciate. And I think that it's also, pausing and breathing is something that kids almost any age can do. And they actually kind of do it when they start to settle. You can see them pausing and like taking those big deep breaths and sort of trying to figure out how to show up. So I love the idea of putting it into a book that kids can read, because I think that makes it more accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think,
for sure.
I'm curious, Nicheng, actually, if you want to reflect on this, because we use this word breath work. And to me, we overcomplicate breath work in the world, because it really is inhaling and exhaling. And like, we can make it super simple for kids, or we can make it super complicated. And I think many people overcomplicate it. Do you want to explain what it is? I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast.
So I think it's actually a misnomer. It doesn't have to be any work. Right? Like, the beauty of breathing is that it has dual control. You're involuntarily breathing, like, assuming you're like a healthy person, not needing mechanical ventilation. But if you're listening to this podcast, most likely you have both voluntary and involuntary control. Like, you're not consciously constantly focusing on your breath. Like, as we're talking, our brains, our central nervous systems are regulating our tidal volumes to be able to enable us to continue to speak in sentences and paragraphs without even having to think about it. And then there's also voluntary breathing, which is more the breath work terminology, is when you invoke your capacity for controlling the breath, naming the ways that you can control the breath, like the frequency, the depth of breathing, and then controlling the time for inspiration versus expiration, versus even the pause in between that breath cycle. And then you can also recruit a lot of different muscles that you may or may not already do without conscious effort, along with breathing. So there's different ways to manipulate, if you will, the breath for different purposes. But again, harkening back to breath as a superpower, you can actually change the way that your nervous system is or is not balanced from sympathetic to parasympathetic with manipulating your breath very intentionally.
And you can simply breathe in and breathe out, and that also works. And right, that's the inhale, exhale, which I love. So I really wanted to have you guys on the podcast because I love that you did this together as a mom-daughter duo. And I have done some things with my kids, and several of them have been on the podcast, but it works sometimes and doesn't work other times. And so I really want to know how you both decided that you wanted to do this, and maybe both of you, like, why did you want to do it with your daughter? Why did you decide to do it with your mom? And what worked for you guys to make this happen? Because I think that's something that's super special about this book.
I think the book first, I mean, it was kind of playing, or, like anyone who's done writing knows, like it's kind of hanging out in your being for a period of time before you actually start putting pen to paper. And so at first it just started out as like a poem, like a rhyme. I think mainly inspired because my husband works in play-by-play for basketball. So he actually started working with our NBA team, the Pelicans. And so I think that it was around that time period that I started like actually being like, oh, that'd be kind of a fun little rhyme, like talking about a pelican playing basketball, not knowing like where this pelican was going in his journey until he kind of started telling me. And then as with any good writing process, there's the putting it down, the writer's block, the what's, maybe this is silly, maybe this isn't going anywhere. And that's where Maeve kind of helped lend her calmness and way of being.
Well, I was just kind of there, and then you asked me like, "Hey, do you want to help me on this?" Like, it wasn't a book because we never like considered it to be a book at all. You just kind of, I think you called it a project. You're like, do you want to help on this project? So I was just kind of there. I kind of said a few things. I didn't really contribute until like a year after she started. So like, I don't really remember at all, actually.
You did help me through writer's block. I think you blocked that part, that you actually gave me some words in there and like, which actually helped steer the story. And then Maeve also did a lot of sketch work because she was around 10 at this point.
Like 10, 11.
Yeah. We really kind of started exploring like what did it look like where he was playing? Like, what did he look like? What was he doing? What did anxiety look like? What did, those feelings feel like? And I thought it was important to have the young reader's voice in it. And Maeve had her own journey with anxiety. Like she'd kind of dived into this, head first into like her own feelings around this. And so that really became central. Like she is a very chill person and is a very humble being. She was very central to how this like book took shape and happened. She will not say that. She will say, oh yeah, whatever, I kind of helped. She was like central. I don't think the book would be in existence without Maeve. In fact, I know it wouldn't. It's not a think, it's a no. And that really helped our relationship evolve in a way that I didn't anticipate, because this also happened around the time of her going from tweendom into teendom, right? Like she was 10, 11, now she's 13. And, that's a transition for a young woman and she's my first child. So, it was a transition for both of us. And this project together really helped us partner in a different kind of way as she evolved into the beginnings of a young adult. So I think it allowed our relationship to change in a way that was needed and was really kind of fun. Looking back now, was really kind of a fun way for us to do that and stay connected during a time when mothers and daughters often start disconnecting.
Yeah. Maeve, what was it like working with your mom on a book? Was it fun? I'll feed you Did she drive you crazy? You can be honest.
I don't remember a lot of it because I was like younger, but like I just remember it being like, just like a cool little thing I'm working on. I didn't expect it to go anywhere, if I'm being completely honest. Like I just thought it was just like, oh, I'm just drawing this for fun, this isn't gonna be used at any point. So I thought it was just like a fun time, because I didn't think of it at all because I was younger. So.
And now it actually did go somewhere and has become a thing. And I'm curious, one, how it did go somewhere and become a thing. And also, I think for you, Maeve, are you enjoying it becoming a thing? Because I have seen you're on this podcast, but I know you've been on another podcast, and I've seen things about you being interviewed and showing up in cool spaces, which is something most kids don't get to do. How has that felt on the other end?
I mean, it's been pretty cool because like one of my like dreams, I'd say, is to be like an actor and like just do like acting stuff. So like to do stuff like this at like a young age, like, not everyone gets to do that. So I think it's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. And your mom is trusting you to show up and answer questions, which is super cool also, I think.
Yeah, she always bugs me. She's like, you have to talk. Like, you have to talk. Like, I'm not doing all the talking.
Yeah, but you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And
She's,
so,
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say she's very wise. So it's important to me that she does
Yeah.
have a voice in this. She mentioned, she kind of alluded to doing some sketching. Like she designed a number of the pages. There's one page in particular that
You can show us if you have it. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I have my own copy of the book.
Yeah, that she designed. We call it the lanyard page, but it's basically Canal, who is our pelican,
Yeah.
doing a belly breath. So it's like in New Orleans culture, lanyap is a little something extra. So if you come to New Orleans, if you're blessed enough to come here, and you go to a restaurant and they like you, they might bring out an extra dish. Like, or if you know the server or know the chef, or you're with someone like myself who is going to take you where we know somebody, they bring out what's called lanyap, like, oh, it's a lanyap dessert or a lanyap starter. And that's just a little something extra. So this is our lanyap page. So it's basically Canal doing a belly breath. And it shows these are Maeve's words. Cause like who's going to explain how to do a belly breath to kids better than another kid?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Our illustrator, Aileen Bennett, is this lovely woman, who really, Maeve was always present in the room. Like we would have these Zoom meetings with her, and with our publisher, who I purposely chose because it's women owned. And it was important to me that Maeve be central to the process because she has been from the start. And I don't want that to be dropped. I don't want her to be like, oh, she's just a kid, whatever. Like she's a creative. And so seeing her and Aileen as two creatives talking about these pages and discussing like where Canal is going to be going, who his little sidekick is going to be. He always has Buzz, the mosquito there on the side, and making sure that was always present was something really fun to kind of watch happen because creatives have this shared language that it was just kind of amazing to watch and see. So
yeah. We had these meetings like everywhere. Like I remember was it Into the Woods?
yeah, you're into the woods. She's the witch.
Yeah, we were doing Into the Woods at my school. So like I think it was like before or after a rehearsal. I think it was before.
Yeah.
We would just have like a meeting, like a Zoom meeting in like
Your director's
like
office.
an office. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she and Aileen would be talking about like who the sidekick
Like,
would be.
the art design, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's such a cool experience at such a young age. It's I think not something that most kids get to experience. So I'm also curious. I love the idea of teaching mindfulness in different creative ways. So as many of you know, I do sort of mindful yoga and forest bathing and sound healing and keeping it simple and practical and different. And I'm a pediatrician, so I love kids and books. But I'm sort of curious about this idea of teaching mindfulness in creative ways. I also teach kids yoga. And so the idea of like mindfulness with movement or connecting it to sports or, in kids yoga, we do something where you in Shavasana are on the mat is a magic carpet and you imagine flying on the magic carpet and that helps the kids sit. So do you guys think it's like this storytelling is a way to bring mindfulness to kids that can work better? Or do you have other thoughts on that? I think it's such a cool concept.
Yeah. I mean, I think that having it be accessible in whatever way people can find it is really important. Like I know you guys do this too in your own practice when you're working with people in whatever environment. Like I always say, use what serves you in this moment, leave the rest there on the table for others to pick up. And this is a tool. This is one way that a child or their grown up may find that a breathing exercise or a mindfulness exercise is most accessible to them in this moment. It might be what makes that light turn on and have them realize like, oh, this is something that works for me. There are other ways, whether it be in the actual, like on the court in an actual game, or, as someone like Maeve, like on the stage performing, where they realize the breath work is something that's going to kind of make things click. The cool part about integrative medicine and like the space that where I have found my joy is watching those things kind of cross-pollinate, working with a singer and then realizing like, oh, this breath work is helping me hit that note. And hey, it also helps me chill out before the audition. Like watching that kind of cross-pollination of how it can help is super fun. And I just hope this is like one little seedling that kind of can be part of that.
Yeah, super fun. Maeve, do you have any thoughts on how we as grown-ups could help kids better with the mindfulness, stress, anxiety challenge? I'm going to throw out that I think we only do an adequate job. I think we have a lot of room for improvement.
I think like a big thing is just to like sit down and like try to have a talk with us. I know like some kids might not want to cooperate in that sense, but it does help a lot to just like hear us out and like understand the big feelings. Like my mom saw like some like grown-ups like misinterpret like kids acting out or just like screaming and yelling. So it's good to have like adults, like sit down, have a talk with us, actually understand us, because that's helped me a lot, like in school and stuff. So I think it would help like parents and kids, other things.
I want to highlight that. So pausing and listening, very mindful activities.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the actual listening is the part, is key, because it's just as human beings, when you're in a conversation, oftentimes we start going ahead with, oh, this is what I want to say, instead of like actually actively listening. And as the grown-ups, the adults sometimes in the conversation, we have our own agendas, right? Like we have our own views of what we think we want our little people to like turn into and
like do in your life and stuff.
100%, right? And if we don't like spend the time to actually listen to what
they want to do,
then it's misery.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's what's really special about this book. There aren't that many kids' books that are also written by a kid. And so to have that kid perspective makes it much more reachable or accessible, and I think that's why it's so important that you did this together. So I would love to pivot a tiny bit just to how I see that you have gone to a lot of work to bring this in to be a community thing and done a lot of work on visibility and publicizing it. That's quite impressive. And so I'm curious a little bit about how you've done that. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we can help, because the pediatrician in me wants to get this to pediatric offices and parents and child psych. I was always asked in clinic, what books could I recommend for anxiety? And there are very few. And so I'm hoping to be part of the solution here and sharing it. But I have witnessed you being on, different media and attaching it to the Pelicans, which is the New Orleans basketball. Yeah, and the Duke basketball coach and all of those things. So I'm really curious what your approach has been. I think that for people in medicine in particular, or anyone writing a book, that's one of the things that just feels really complex and complicated.
Oh, yeah. We get in our own way because we decide we have to be perfect instead of just doing it. Yeah. And that was a big lesson for me. I think number one, and you guys know this, like I have two coaches. Yeah. I started out with an executive coach for my business and then added I call her like my goddess coach, which is kind of a coven of women that meets for coaching. And I feel like both elements for me have been super important as a mom and as like a businesswoman and a writer, because we get in our own heads, right? And Jessie, like I've told you this, and and just to remind you, like we had a conversation when I was at one of your retreats and you told us the story of how your son walks into a room and just like assumes they're going to say yes as like a young white male. And like when they don't, he's like, you're lost and moves on. I mean, maybe not to their face, but like in his head.
In his head, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, his inside voice.
Yeah, exactly. And Jack has the same kind of like you're lost mentality about the world, which I love and adore. And there have been a lot of no's in this journey. And a lot of what's worse than a no, I've realized, the crickets, the silence, the ghosting. Maeve is used to that. This is why having her as a partner has been such a blessing and an expander for me, because she is, as she alluded to, she's an actor, she's a creative, she's auditioned more times than I can count. And especially in the like screen audition world, there are more silences than like you don't get no's, you just move on to the next thing. And even in her theater, audition, sometimes with the bigger theaters, it'll take them a minute to like remember, oh wait, that's a kid, I need to actually tell them no. And she moves on to the next thing quite easily, whereas I get all in my head about it. But I've had to evolve with that. I've moved on to like, I have a series of emails of no's that I've like put in a little folder in honor of Jack called like losers, because it's like their loss. And it's not even that they are losers. It's more for me to move on. But that mentality of, okay, well, you're just not part of our journey yet. That's something else like one of the men in the publishing world told me when I said, hey, I didn't hear from that place or this place. He's like, well, you're not there yet. But, that's when they figure it out, they'll come back around. And so that's added some freedom, I think, because, I think as physicians, especially, we have this type A mentality where we have to be the top of the class. Maeve does not care about, she's an honor student. She's she's nominated student of the year at her school. I mean, she's a stellar, in academics and in the arts, but she doesn't care. Like she is not like, I got to be top of the class.
Yeah, you definitely care more than I do.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like this is something we almost start that way, and then we start to care. So if we could unlearn it and go back to being kids who are just delighted with themselves, and stand up and do that, ta-da, and look at me, and then we layer on all this stuff over time, and we could learn to unlearn it from people
100%.
like me.
100%.
Yeah.
So I think having that attitude's important. And then I think what I learned is leaning into relationships is important. Like you mentioned, like Duke basketball. I grew up like a Duke basketball fan. I grew up in North Carolina. My parents both immigrated from Ireland. I told this story when I was on the podcast before. And my dad, who's now looking down on us, is, who's passed away. He did a fellowship at Duke, which is why my parents stayed in America. And he was a big fan of Duke basketball, like before it was cool, like back when they were like 10 and 17. And back in those days, they actually tried to fire Coach K because he wasn't, it took him a minute to like figure things out and get his system going. And my dad was one of his biggest defenders. And so they had a lifelong friendship. Coach K sent a mass card when dad died. Coach K knew me when I was her age, and he's just a solid guy. Like he's himself. He's never changed as far as like how he is as a person. And so I reached out through his assistant, who's the same lady that has been his assistant since he was a coach, and just said, hey, I'm Jarla's daughter. He may remember me. my daughter, the granddaughter of your friend. And I wrote this book. It's used in basketball. I also knew, side note, from working, like I did a certificate in leadership in integrative healthcare through Duke Integrative Medicine. So I also knew from my work with them that Coach K is a big fan of integrative medicine. And part of his success is that the inhale, exhale, shoot is literally something that he would encourage in his players. Like before it was, now in the NBA, it's mandated you have someone in mental health work with your team. But before that was the mandate and was cool, he was bringing in mind body work with his team. You know, they were doing Pilates and all the things and doing the breath work, doing like looking at like heart math and things like that. You know, I mean, you could say it's science just to be a step ahead, but I think it's really part of his being. Like he just saw the value of it, the value of like including your spirituality and your just sense of self. And so I also kind of just knew going in, like, if he knows about this, he's going to support it. Like, I just kind of knew because I knew that's how he is.
You're channeling my son's belief that he's, of course, going to be interested.
Like, of course he is. And, you know, fortunately, like his assistant loved it. She's like, I can't wait to show it to my grandkids. And, you know, he was a big supporter. And my husband saw him at an NBA meeting. He's like, oh yeah, love it. Love the book. And, you know, now, you know, as we've alluded to, like he gave us a lovely endorsement that's on the back of the book. He's, yeah, I mean, they can't really read it, but yeah, it's on the back. And
do you want to read it? Because you
want to read it to me?
Yeah. She has it.
Go ahead and read it.
Oh yeah, read it. We'd love to hear it.
Okay. So Inhale, Exhale, Shoot is a powerful tool for helping children understand and manage big feelings through the familiar and inspiring language of basketball. Holly McKenna and her then 12-year-old daughter Maeve Graffinini beautifully blend mindfulness and movement, offering young readers practical strategies for both the court and everyday life. The vibrant illustrations bring each lesson to life, making complex emotions accessible and engaging for kids. With its focus on trust, exuberance, adaptability, and mindfulness, this book is a valuable resource for any parent, teacher, or coach looking to nurture confidence, resilience, and emotional well-being in children. It's Coach K.
So cool.
He's an amazing human being. I can't say enough about him. Just a solid human. Yeah. I mean, now it's up where I don't think Maeve can make it because of her school schedule, but like we're going up to Duke for like a book fair with their women's weekend in February. It's in their bookstore at the Gothic bookstore for anyone up there listening.
I'd be able to go for sure. In February?
Yeah, it's right after Mardi Gras. Yeah.
How can we get the book more known about in peds and child psych? Do you have thoughts about how we can help with that?
I appreciate y'all's voice, just because, you know, you both are in alignment with our mission. You know, it's been such a joy to make this book with Maeve and to this process, but it does pain me when I think of these books in a warehouse and not like in children's hands. Like that's like the next step is like, because now we go out to festivals. We were at like the Po' Boy Fest, which here is like a big thing. You know, we love our po' boys, you know, big sandwiches for people who don't know that from New Orleans. And I remember seeing little boys come up and get the book. And I think of one, right? And sitting on the pavement because we were like in a parking lot, like off of the street where the fest was, and just reading it cover to cover, which was like, you know, the clouds parted and the rainbows and all the feelings about that, really watching them absorb it. And then I think, again, back to Jack, like this is a kid who started out in a really explosive place, not feeling heard by me as his mom, his dad. Maeve probably more than any of us was there on his level listening to him, but really felt isolated. And then I watched once the grownups kind of surrounded him and helped him out. I always think to this, we were getting our flu shot. It was either flu or COVID. It was COVID. It was COVID shot. Okay. So we were getting our COVID shot at Walgreens.
It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. And you know, he gets very anxious. He's very anxious about it. I got mine first, then Maeve, then it was his turn. And he goes, I need a minute. And then he took a breath. Okay, I'm ready. And then was able to get a shot. And I still get chills about it. Like just watching a kid who, you know, maybe a year before I'd have had to hold down and like done the like pediatric hold.
Yep.
Don't bite. Don't. As the mom, like I know my mom used to send my dad with me for my shots because I was the biter, you know, so like he inherited this, you know, he came upon it honestly. But watching him evolve from like that family history and his own history to like taking a breath and then facing it head on, like that's why we wrote it. So like I just want it in kids' hands, like at this point. So we, you know, decided December is a month of giving. We decided to like kind of I reached out to my publisher or our publisher and said like, what's the cheapest we can go for this book? Because, unfortunately, we're not like independently wealthy, so we can't just like give them out for free. But so basically to pay for just the making of the book and then the like shipping it is $15. It's normally 20 retail. So for this month, we are basically offering for folks to donate a book, which means just like you go on to susanshatpress.com. That's our publisher's website. You go to the donate, there's like a buy a book option and the donate, the inhale, exhale, shoot option. And you just pay the $15, however many books you want to donate. And Maeve, because she's a star, is in her service club with her school, De La Salle High School here in New Orleans. And those kids are distributing the book to kids in our area through like domestic violence shelters and some other shelters that really don't have access to books. If it gets even bigger, we'll expand to other areas as well. Or if people want to partner with us, if they have a specific population, I'm on the board of Fill the Needs, which is an organization that helps fill the needs after disaster. So like there's other ways we can get it to other places as well. But we're starting out with Maeve School because that's what's close to us. And that community has been so supportive of us. And just getting them to kids that wouldn't normally get a book and probably need it the most. And so, yeah, that's kind of step one. And again, like I said, we're kind of open to partnering if people want to make steps 3 through 8.
Yeah, well, it comes to mind just pediatricians knowing about it. I used to always have books in my office, and even as people ask you for recommendations, someday I just like to throw out a dream here. Maybe it could be a reach out and read book. The paperback version of it. In PEDS, we have these reach out and read grants where we give away books to kids who come in for their well checks.
Nice.
And it's a national program. So because you two think big, I'm just going to throw that dream out there somehow. And I believe that you could do it because what a cool book to give out. So when kids come for their well checks as pediatricians, offices have grants and we can just give them a book. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be so cool.
So,
yeah. Anything that gets the message out, honestly, because like I said, that's one of our main reasons we made it was for it to be a tool. And then just for kids to remember that they have that power within them.
Yeah. Beautiful. So for those people listening, if you want to donate a book, we will put the link to the show notes of the webpage to go to. And we would love it if you are so inspired that you would go on and support Maeve's project and get more of these books out there. And for those of you listening who might want it in your office, psych, peds, family practice, maybe even OB, because lots of kids come and need books. Or if you have children in your life, I personally have a copy and it's a great book. So I encourage you to all get a copy of it. And I do want to put a little bit just of a personal plug in. I have lots of boys in my life. Most of you know I have 2 new twin granddaughters, but before that I have all boys. And I think that there are very few resources for boys around mindfulness. There tend to be more. And so putting together sports and mindfulness, I used to tell people all about Steph Curry, who's our Warriors basketball guy, and how he works on mindfulness and he breathes and he has a mindfulness coach because kids will listen. And so it strikes me that when I see this relating to basketball again, what a way to connect with those energetic spirits at young ages.
So Holly and Maeve, thank you so much for joining us and congratulations. We're so excited for you. Is there anything that you would like to share with our audience before we close the podcast?
I mean, just that we appreciate the time. We appreciate everyone's energy and what folks do to just encourage our, young folks or young readers to embrace their own inner power of breathing. And as Maeve, so eloquently told us, to just take that moment and listen and take a breath yourself so you can hear what they have to say. Because oftentimes they can teach us way more than we can teach them if we just give them that space.
Thank you. And you have personally inspired me to push the book that's been floating around with me and my eldest child that we wrote when they were 10 to the finish line as well. So thank you so much for putting this out there.
Yay. Do it. You won't regret it. The process is probably much more than the product, as far as what the rewards are on the other side.
That's such a good mindfulness reminder that it's more about the process and the journey than the outcome anyway. And we're happy to support the outcome. And we're going to release this earlier in December than our usual release because we want to support this December month of giving and give people a chance to either get the book as holiday gifts for kids in their world or to help donate books to those needy folks in New Orleans. So we just want to thank our listeners for listening to this extra episode. And we will see you all next week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If our message resonates, we'd love to connect further. Join us for coaching, mindfulness experiences, workshops, and retreats. Invite us to speak at your institution or conference. When you work with us, you don't just consume information, you create real change. Find Ni-Chang Liang at Awaken Breath and Jessie Mahoney at Pause and Presence.
All right, so I invite you to sit with an awake spine, feet on the floor. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. And if not, holding a soft gaze. And let's just bring our attention to our breath. Just noticing as the air enters our nose, goes into our throat, down into our lungs, and expands. And then is exhaled out of our mouth, releasing anything that doesn't serve us in this moment. Just noticing what changes in our bodies as we pay attention to our breath. Perhaps things that were weighing on our shoulders or weighing on our hearts are released with those exhales. Allowing our mind's need to control to take a little bit of a focus from just noticing the breath to putting some intentionality with the breath. Slowly inhaling through the nose, holding, and exhale through the mouth. Inhaling, letting our belly expand, holding, and exhale, feeling it deflate. One last time, inhale, hold, and exhale. And then allowing our body just going with ease and flow back into what's comfortable. Noticing as our heart rate slows and our body relaxes. And then slowly bringing our attention back to where we are in this moment, where we're seated, those who are around us, the energy that's shared. When we're comfortable, opening your eyes and coming back to the here and now. Thank you for sharing this moment with us.